You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Cabral Concept. Great to have you back here today. Can't wait to get into this Training Thursday edition of the show where we are going to be going over whether or not you should exercise before breakfast or after breakfast, and also who it benefits the most. So if you're looking at exercise timing and you're trying to figure out which time of the day burns the most body fat, we're going to go over that today. A new study came out giving some really good details surrounding this, and I also want to share with you what physique competitors have been doing for years in order to transform their bodies. Because remember, a lot of times what people are doing in the real world in practice takes decades for science to catch up to. And what I mean by that is that there are people, whether it's personal trainers, it's doctors, it's integrative health practitioners, whoever it might be, there are people doing things right now that are getting real world results that science needs to eventually catch up with. They need to figure out why this is working. And again, it always takes decades later for it to make it into the textbooks. That's why it's so important to read other books besides textbooks, that even if you are a naturopathic doctor, even if you are an osteopathic doctor, a chiropractor, or whatever it might be in terms of nurse practitioner, you want to continue to expand your knowledge. You want to learn what people are doing right now in their current practice, that you might be able to take some of that wisdom and use it now before it makes its way to textbooks. Because remember, you're not going back to school anymore, right? So what you're doing is maybe getting your continuing education credits, et cetera, et cetera. But your main education, you say, in terms of reading textbooks, for most people is done. But I don't believe that it ever should be, right? I think we should look at the science, look at the studies, but let's also look towards the practitioners that are doing it every day and say, listen, look, this is working. But then you have to also have the foundation to know that even if it's working, is it working okay because we're hacking the body and it's a short-term solution and it's detrimental long-term, like a lot of the diet plans we have right now? Or is this something that can actually work long-term as well? That's what I always hope to share with you here on the Cabral Concept. Again, I appreciate you tuning in and always sharing this show if you think it's beneficial to someone. So what I want to go over today, very specific study. This was done in the University of Bath. And the lead on this study, I always want to give credit where credit's due, Dr. Javier Gonzalez, the Department for Health at the University of Bath. And I'm going to go over this very specifically. It's a very straightforward study, so I'm just going to go over this quickly with you. And then I always want to share with you how you can implement this in your life, because that's important, right? I really feel that if you just given the research, but you don't know how to use it in your life, what's the point? Like, it really is like, okay, it's kind of the so what factor, right? It's kind of like, okay, so what? So what does that mean for me? Okay, you gave me the research, but how do I use it? So I always want to give you the usable action plan towards the end of the show, like how I would use it, what I would do in my own life, or how I've already been using it. So I'm going to go over that with you right now, and I hope by the end of the show, you know exactly how to use it. If you're a health coach or a personal trainer or integrative health practitioner, or if you just want to use it in your own life. Okay, so let's dive right in. The name of the study is called Lipid Metabolism Links Nutrient Exercise Timing to Insulin Sensitivity in Men Classified as Overweight or Obese. And again, this goes for women as well. I'll be talking specifically about women and hormones in just a second. But again, lipid metabolism, which means fat burning, links nutrient exercise timing, which means when to eat food, to insulin sensitivity, which means your body's ability to tap into fat, in men, or let's just say people, who are overweight or obese. And this study looked at people typically with a BMI of 30 or more. So Really straightforward, right? So I always want to break down the research for you, because if you just hear lipid metabolism links nutrient exercise timing to insulin sensitivity in men classified as overweight or obese, you'd be like, what does that mean? But again, if you just break it down and not have to use the medical terms, you could say fat burning linked to when you eat due to lower insulin levels. Okay, that makes sense. Great, we can use that. Now, 6-week study. Again, I'd love to be using longer studies, but 6 weeks is okay for now. And here's why. It already backs up what we know. And that's why I want to give you the study. So we already knew this. Now it's backed up by science. Here's what it found. I'm going to give you the direct quotes from Dr. Gonzalez. And it said this. Our results suggest. Let me break down the study. They had 3 groups. One group exercised before breakfast. Another group exercised after breakfast. And then there was the control group that did absolutely nothing, right? They just kept on living how they typically would. All right. So here's what it found. And I'll just give you what it found right out of the gates. It found that those people that exercised before breakfast were able to burn more body fat. But here's the thing. Not just a little more body fat. Direct quote. People who performed exercise before breakfast burned double the amount of fat than the group who exercised after breakfast. Remarkable, right? Let me read that one more time. People who exercised before breakfast burned double the amount of fat than the group who exercised after breakfast. Really interesting. I'm going to give you a little bit more to the study in just a moment. Now, here's what Dr. Gonzalez said directly. Our results suggest that changing the timing of when you eat in relation to when you exercise can bring about profound and positive changes to your overall health. I'm going to tell you why he's talking about health instead of weight loss in just a second. We found that men in the study who exercised before breakfast burned double the amount of fat than the group who exercised after. Importantly, while this didn't have any effect on overall weight loss, it did dramatically improve their health. The group who exercised before breakfast increased their ability to respond to insulin, which is all the more remarkable given that both exercise groups lost a similar amount of weight and both gained a similar amount of fitness. The only difference was the timing of the food intake. Okay, let's go into this a little bit more. This work suggests that performing exercise in the overnight fasted state can increase the health benefits of exercise for individuals without changing the intensity, duration, or perception of their effort. We now need to explore the longer-term effects of this type of exercise and whether women benefit in the same way as men. Okay, let's break this down now from my perspective. Over 100 years, well over 100 years, bodybuilders, fitness competitors. Now, again, you may not want to look like a bodybuilder, but for sure, bodybuilders have body transformation and losing body fat down to a science. And I used to be in the bodybuilding world, the natural bodybuilding world, around 18 years old to about 24 years old or so. And at that point, I was trying to add as much muscle as I could naturally and then lean out when it was time to, well, I actually never competed, and I always tell people that. I was working on my first show, and as I was 6 weeks out from my first show, I tore my brachioradialis, which is a muscle that basically moves from your forearm, it was on my right arm, to my right bicep. No doubt about it, I was overtraining, and I was undereating, right? I was an amateur, for sure. Now, was I ever going to win any bodybuilding competitions? Unlikely. Very unlikely, right? But here's the thing. I was learning about it. I was understanding it, and it was a challenge for my body. Now, it wasn't healthy for me. I was eating 275 to 300 plus grams of protein a day. My health was not good at that point. But if you looked at my body, well, I was in more of a bodybuilder-based shape. You know, I'm above 5'8", and I weighed almost 200 pounds. That's pretty enormous. That's pretty big, especially on my frame, because I don't have like a large frame. It's not my body type. So when you look at that, you say, okay, well, that's what it was. And I probably would have, I would have lost probably about 30 pounds to really lean out and get sub 5%, which I've been sub 5%. I've been as low as just over 3% body fat for certain photo shoots, things like that. Back in the day, those days are over. But that's what you can do to your body. But here's how. I just want to give you the how. Again, I was never going to be the Mr. Olympia. But I can look at, again, a friend of mine and a colleague of mine, Ben Pekulski. And I would take Ben's advice on becoming a bodybuilder over any study, research, or textbook ever written. Ben knows way more than any of these researchers on what's going to work for the human body in terms of becoming a bodybuilder. Ben was a Mr. Olympia contestant. He knows this. He lived it. He breathed it, and he still does today. Now, I'm actually glad for his own health that he isn't still trying to compete in the Mr. Olympias. He's still enormous. He's still this very large, muscular individual. And when Ben and I met in person, I did his podcast a while back, probably about 6 months, maybe 8 months ago now. He just totally eclipsed me. Like he's still a very big individual. And I would take, again, Ben's bodybuilding advice over, again, a research study. But here's the thing. For years and years and years and years and years, bodybuilders always did fasted cardio. Not every one of them, but always did fasted cardio. They woke up in the morning and they would go for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, or an hour. And they would walk, or they would just do low to moderate intensity cardio. It might be jogging, or it might simply be getting up on an exercise bike. Guess what they did in the study? An exercise bike. Guess what intensity? Just moderate. Why? When you wake up in the morning, your blood sugar is probably going to be at the lowest it will be for the day because you've gone 8, 10, 12 hours without eating, especially if you're following our overnight 12-hour fasting routine. That means your insulin levels, hopefully, again, you can test this, will be at their lowest point. Now, I want to give one little aside. We do something called the mood, stress, and metabolism test, formerly called the thyroid adrenal hormone. And on that, it shows morning insulin. And we show a lot of people their insulin levels are still high in the morning. And check out, I did a podcast on the cortisol awakening response and a spike from hypoglycemia in the morning. So again, some people get a spike in insulin in the morning even though they're in a fasted state. A lot of people don't know this. A lot of people who believe they're still in a fasted state. That's not the truth. It's the truth if you're relaxed in the morning. It's the truth if you don't spike cortisol. And it's the truth if you have balanced blood sugar. So, okay, the lower insulin levels in the morning, which hopefully also translate to lower glucose in the blood, allow you to tap into more body fat. And it also makes the muscles more receptive to the uptake of glucose. That was really important in the study. So the study actually showed it will most likely prove out to help people with diabetes, cardiovascular issues, and a host of other wellness-based issues. So besides, we'll talk about the weight loss in just a second. This is actually a health-based thing. Exercising, just with cardio, upon waking, or before eating, could be an hour after waking up, is going to give you a lot of health-based benefits. All right, now, who wouldn't be okay for? It's still not that great. This is better for people who need to lose weight. It's better for people that have difficulty maintaining their weight because they gain weight easily. That's who it's best for, okay? Or you have diabetes or you have blood sugar issues. Who it's not good for are more of the Vata body type, more of the high-stress body type, more of the anxious, overwhelmed, heart rate's already going a million miles an hour upon waking, people who lose weight more easily than gain weight. Not good for you, right? Remember, there is no all for one. Anybody who tells you there's an all for one has just short-sighted who it's detrimental for. Now, again, you always have to give people a foundation, right? So again, there's some people who exercise an empty stomach still might not be good for, even if they need to lose weight. But remember, you have to start somewhere. So at least a foundational approach is you could do a little cardio in the morning, be really beneficial. Again, you can get an exercise bike for your home if you can't go to a gym for a couple $100. And I'm not saying a couple $100 is cheap, but you can save up for that. And after 3 months of savings, you can get that exercise bike. And you can just, again, go to stephencabral.com/podcast. Just type in bike in the search box. I'm sure you'll find the episodes where I recommend it. And you can buy one. You can put it together. You can have someone put it together for you on Amazon. And that's it. You can hop on that for 20, 30 minutes in the morning. That's it. It's as simple as that. Say, I don't have an extra 20, 30 minutes in the morning. Go to bed 20, 30 minutes earlier. Remember, you can make this happen. Always create more solutions than excuses or problems. Again, you can make this happen. No doubt about it. All right. Now, Again, I've done many podcasts on that. You can run the thyroid adrenal hormone. Highly recommended. Because a lot of women with lower thyroid-based issues, high cortisol, higher insulin in the morning, will want to correct that first, right before you start doing a lot of exercise upon waking. So you can check that out. Okay. So that's on that lab test. We'll link that up today. I'll make it easy for you. Head over to stephencabral.com/1371. Why don't I do this? I'll link up the upright bike there, 1371. I'm going to link up the study today. I'm going to link up the mood, stress, and metabolism test, also called the thyroid adrenal hormone. And that's it. Okay. So now listen to this. It was interesting. The reason why the group that burned twice the amount of body fat doing the morning cardio still maintained the same weight as this. They ate the same amount every single day. So the calories never decreased. All right. That's why calories do matter. You can only go so low with calories, but if you don't reduce them and your total exercise has not taken you to caloric deficit, you'll still maintain the same weight. Again, what do we do bodybuilding-wise? AM cardio, and then what would you do? Well, afternoon, weight workout, resistance training. And you might say, well, I don't have time for all of this. Well, you could do it all in the morning. You could do your cardio and you could do your weight training in the morning. And I've talked about that on how to combine weight training and cardio just in the last week or two. Again, all of these shows are available for free at stephencabral.com/podcasts. And let's see. This was on episode 1357. Burn more fat by properly combining cardio and weight training. Super easy, right? Put that all together on one show. All right. So here's what I want you to think about, though. If you want to lose weight, you want to burn double the amount of body fat, we do need to control the calories. We also can't be going super high in starches or processed foods. You still want your berries and your veggies and all that good stuff, but we don't want to go super high. I mean, ideally, this is what I would like you to do. Do a 21-day functional medicine detox, the Dr. Cabral detox, aka the Equilibrium Nutrition detox. Then listen to the podcast, How to Transition Off a Low-Carb Diet. Also listen to the podcast, How Not to Retox After a Detox. That will set you up for success. Do your cardio and weight training, and then you start to include more and more food so that you're not deprived of good carbohydrates. Super simple, very straightforward. We're going to be putting together an entire metabolic and weight loss system. It's actually already created. That's going to debut January 1st of this new year. Super excited about that. Okay. This is typically bodybuilders who do a lot of split routines. AM cardio, PM weight training. You don't have to do that because your life's not dedicated to bodybuilding. I can't do that. You probably can't do that either. So what you can do is you can simply do your workouts before breakfast if you need to lose weight or you need to maintain that weight. And it doesn't have to be every day, right? Could be just more days than not, 4 days a week. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, pick one weekend day. Super easy. Or if you're super busy during the week, Saturday, Sunday, those are your workout days, and then Tuesday, Thursday. Easy. You can do this. Remember, you can follow this plan. All right. Last thing to give you is this. Again, I always want to give you that action plan takeaway. So I give you the days that you can do it. I gave you just doing an exercise bike. That's all you have to do. Again, moderate intensity. You don't need to knock yourself out. This is just hopping on that bike, let's say for 30 minutes. All right, that's it. Just go, right? Warm up 3 to 5 minutes, start to pedal a little faster, get that heart rate to somewhere around 60, 70% of your max VO2. If you don't know how to calculate that, check out a previous show I did on that. Simple formula though, 220 minus your age, take about 70% of that. And again, I can't give you the exact formula because I don't know your age, I don't know your fitness level, but that's about the estimate. And again, I've done shows on all these different things. So that's it right there. You combine that with the healthy nutrition plan, you'll not only lose the weight, but you'll get the health-based benefits that we're looking for, right? So we're talking about diabetes. We're talking about cardiovascular issues. We're talking about cancer-based issues that can come from dysregulated blood sugar and inflammation and oxidative stress, all these different things in the body. So this is way more, I want to tell you, than just about weight loss. This is overall wellness. This was talking about the benefits of men and women with this study. Now, again, I believe, and I want to close with this, I believe this will translate over for women as well. Now, again, not fairly, unfairly, all of that. Men typically do lose a little bit more weight than women do in the same period of time. For example, I could have 1,000 men and 1,000 women do the 21-day detox. And the average for those 1,000 men on the 21-day detox might be 17 and a half pounds, okay? Now, the average for the women on the 21-day detox might be 11.7 pounds, right? It's a little different. Yes, when men weigh more, they typically have more muscle. The metabolism's a little faster. That doesn't mean it doesn't work for women. Bodies are just a little different. Hormones are a little different. What do we need to look for when women don't lose weight as well as they should? We need to look at estrogen dominance. We need to look at thyroid-based issues. We need to look at overall nutrient-based deficiencies, gut issues, and dysregulated blood sugar. That's what we look at. Now, again, our system coming out in January goes through all of those things. But what I want to tell you is this. All of those things you can find out today. I mean, you honestly can. Everything is doable. And you don't have to purchase this lab. I always tell people this. But I want you to know that state-of-the-art medicine is here. You can do it right at home. You can run this lab whenever you're ready to. For women that have a menstrual cycle, you'll take it on days 19, 20, or 21, any one of those days. It's called the Complete Stress, Mood, and Metabolism Test. Comes with a 30-minute coaching call. It comes with a complete wellness plan. It's going to come with a food guide. You're going to get these things, and it's going to give you estrogen, progesterone, DHEA, testosterone, which again helps with fat burning. It's going to give you cortisol 4 times throughout the day. It's going to give you your vitamin D, which helps with weight loss. And again, this is for men and women. It's going to give you 4 of your thyroid markers, not just TSH. It's going to give you insulin and hemoglobin A1C for your blood sugar. It's absolutely remarkable. And this will tell you deeper down, this used to be called the weight loss test or the weight maintenance test, but it's not just about that. But it goes over the issues people have and why. That's what it's all about. So again, don't worry if you can't do the lab. I just want you to know it exists, and I want you to know what you can start to implement today. Burn double the fat by implementing a exercise program before breakfast and start to enjoy those benefits today, especially if you're someone with dysregulated blood sugar or a more of a swaying towards being able to gain weight more easily. Hopefully this was helpful today. Again, I will link up all the notes at stephencabral.com/1371. Thank you so much for tuning in. And as always, if this was helpful, please do feel free to share it with anyone you believe it could serve. Did you know that the body really only becomes sick or imbalanced in only 2 ways? Over time, you become deficient in vital nutrients, and you also accumulate toxins internally and from the environment. As those nutrients diminish and you increase your total toxic load, your body then begins to show the first signs of dis-ease. It's actually quite predictable, and the good news is that if we know how you began to fill up that proverbial rain barrel, we also know how to empty it to begin the healing process. I was fortunate enough to learn this ancient healing process from my mentor after suffering from debilitating diseases for close to a decade. It was only when I began to implement these techniques did I finally overcome my illnesses and go on to live a life of energy and vitality that I now enjoy. I'd like to share with you now what I discovered after traveling all over the world and how to combine the best of ancient healing wisdom with state-of-the-art science. Allow me to teach you exactly how I've been able to help over 250,000 people to empty their rain barrel and begin to transform their body and lives into what they've always hoped they could be. To get your copy of the international bestseller, The Rain Barrel Effect, simply go to stephencabral.com/rainbarrel.